Runaway, made in 1984, would be one of the first science fiction films that would show robots as just machines. Director Michael Crichton stated one of the differences between this film and some recent science fiction films is the robots. Unlike the robots in Star Wars, which acted human, and the robots in Blade Runner and the Terminator, which looked human, the robots in Runaway are truly machines. Director Crichton saw Runaway as just a cops and robbers style film, but not a cautionary tale about machines. The title of the film refers to runaways, which are manic, malfunctioning domestic robots that are a danger to humans. The film introduces us to a low-key world set in the not-too-distant future, which doesn't look at all that futuristic. Tom Selleck, coming straight from TV's Magnum P.I., plays Sergeant Jack Ramsey, a cop who specializes in malfunctioning robots. When more deaths start to occur with domestic robots as the culprits, he starts to investigate with his partner and love interest, Karen Thompson, that Dr. Lufer, played by Gene Simmons, is the madman behind it all, and Ramsey becomes a target. In casting the lead, Crichton went with TV actor Tom Selleck as Sergeant Ramsey. The director knew Selleck because he cast him in a bit part in his film Coma in 1978. Selleck in the early 80s was a bona fide star, playing in Magnum P.I., a series which ran for a record 8 seasons. Selleck found that the show took all his time, and he rarely took on film roles. Regardless though, he did star as the lead in a number of movies before filming began on Runaway. When he was offered to star in Runaway, he thought the timing was right and said yes. He felt it was easy to accept the lead role in a Michael Crichton film, mainly because he was such a fan of the director's work. He also liked the fact that the script didn't follow a straight path. Selleck said it's not action for action's sake. It's much more complex than that. You really get a chance to know the characters. Actress, singer and dancer Cynthia Rhodes, who plays Karen Thompson, starred in some iconic 80s movies, including Flashdance, Staying Alive, and later Dirty Dancing in 1987. Runaway would mark the very first acting role in a film for Gene Simmons, but he made his first film appearance with his band Kiss in 1978 in the film titled Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Simmons had been keen to act in a film for quite a while. He turned down a number of high-profile film roles in films like Flashdance because he wanted to steer clear of musicals or comedies and concentrate on more dramatic parts. Runaway was the perfect film for Simmons, who got to play a villain. He instantly, after meeting director Crichton, got the part of Dr. Lufer. Crichton thought Simmons looked very menacing. Gene didn't see his part of Lufer as evil, but saw him as a deadly animal who kills when someone gets in his way. Joey Kramer, who would later star in Flight of the Navigator, plays Sergeant Ramsey's son, Bobby. Runaway also starred Kirstie Alley, who was cast in the role of Jackie Rogers. Alley, prior to Runaway, played the Vulcan Lieutenant Savick in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan in 1982, so she was no stranger to science fiction. Filming started in May to August of 1984 in Vancouver, when Tom Selleck was on a break from shooting Magnum P.I. Director Michael Crichton loved shooting in Vancouver and loved working with the Canadian crew, whom he thought were a highly skilled, enthusiastic and positive crew through the whole shoot, and thought Vancouver was a perfect location with a great urban environment. Moses Lake in Washington State was the only other shooting location and was used for a 2-day shoot for the cornfield sequence. Writer-director Michael Crichton didn't take filmmaking lightly and paid great attention to detail throughout the shoot. Crichton said, "We're doing a story that looks to me like how the world is going to be in a few years. Many of the things in the film that are supposed to be in the future are already here." During production, Gene Simmons got heavily into character. The on-camera relationship between Selleck and Simmons had to be convincing. Simmons would remark about Selleck, "While we're playing a scene, I hate his guts. I really want to kill him. It's funny, when doing this stuff, it all wells up." Simmons remarked, "If you hate me in the movie, I'll be thrilled." Crichton keeps the film very low-key and didn't want robots to take over the film. He purposely made the robots look clunky and boxy looking, lacking any real personality. He said, "This is a movie, in part, about the difference between people and machines. We tried very hard to keep perspective. Runaway was a very straightforward film, which was easy to follow." Runaway was actually the first electronic score by composer Jerry Goldsmith to give the synthesizers ambience. Several speakers were set up in a theatre and the playback recorded to get that certain sound. Runaway was expected to be a major box office hit for 1984, but sadly the film turned out to be a box office disaster and was overshadowed by films like The Terminator and Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, and the film ended up making only $7 million in cinemas. The film received mixed reviews. One critic for the New York Times said, "Mr. Crichton has a much better feel for the gadgets than its human players." Tom Selleck thought Runaway would be a great success and thought the film was a really great popcorn movie, and he thought it was a very futuristic film and was a nice movie.
I thought it had a terrific premise. I like the idea of, the robot technology going nuts and having all of this crawl over us and having a guy like Selleck have to do this job. And I like the sort of disdainful way he did it. It could have been a little bit of a comedy. And it's cute, but then it just falls apart. And when it turns into a simple chase film, well, then we might as well be in another kind of picture.
It's never dealt with in terms of characters. And as far as the machines, at the beginning of this film,
it was
fun. Remember Woody Allen and Sleeper, all the fun he had with machines?
No, I thought this was going to be real good in the beginning because it also doesn't tip you off that it's set in the future. And I think it was very clever. Michael Crichton did this film, but then it just dissolves into chase. 2 thumbs down. I like the futuristic robot adventure in the beginning, maybe even more than you, but then washout time.
I'll be honest, Runaway has its downfalls, but overall it's an entertaining film. The concept, I think, is very clever, and technically there is nothing I can fault about the film, which is an absolute visual feast, and shows Crichton to be a very skilled and competent director. But I feel the dialogue suffers a bit, and I think it's poorly written, especially the romantic dialogue between the main hero, Tom Selleck, and Cynthia Rhodes, which is cliche-driven and full of tacky one-liners by Selleck, which is a pity, because I've always been a fan of Tom Selleck's. There are elements of the film I really enjoyed, including Luther's gun, which shoots missile bullets that follow the victims, and you can't beat the robot spiders. Gene Simmons looks like he enjoyed playing the villain, and is a perfect villain. The film on paper had a lot of promise, and I certainly see something great trying to break out of a pretty much average techno thriller. It doesn't have the bite of Crichton's earlier works, but the film in part accurately depicts a future which we are more familiar with in present times. My name's Jonathan, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and like what you see on my channel, please subscribe, and if you would like to become a patron on my Patreon, click on the link below.